thanks for joining us today. This is going to be a special edition. We've got Melody and Jacob Bateman here today. Obviously, you'll recognize Melody from our usual Body Smart book club podcast. But they just, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, ran 100 miles. Which it was funny. I was telling one of my friends about it. He was like, I'm pretty sure that's like more than I'll run in my entire life.
I went on a 60-mile bike ride the night before you guys started.
Really?
I literally, like, at the end of the ride, I was like, oh my gosh, they still have 40 miles to go. I was like,
that's how we felt at mile 62.
Yes, I'm sure. 100 miles is a long way. Really we wanted to bring them in today and talk to them about, the process of them getting into that 100-miler, how it all came to fruition, and then maybe some tips and tricks that they learned along the way that we can share with you guys.
Yeah.
So
I guess let's just get started. What was kind of the genesis behind this idea? I know you've talked before about how, you're more of like sprint runner in high school and stuff.
Yeah.
What kind of got you both into the ultra marathons to begin with, and then just like this goal specifically?
Well, we both ran before we met each other, but it was kind of like 5 miles here, 5 miles there, just to stay in shape. And I don't know what happened. We just like got together and like fueled each other's fires, and then all of a
We're
sudden
like our
this
worst
happened.
enemies, I think.
You're like those power twins. Do you remember that? They like put the rings together and
It's like we didn't care about running, but also we come together and it's like, boom.
It just explodes.
Yeah.
jump straight to
It became our life.
Yeah. So when we were dating, I had these free tickets to run a marathon because I volunteered at this race.
I was going to ask if you've done anything before the 100, or was it just like 5 miles before the 100?
Well, I mean, it kind of was, honestly.
Anyways, we'll get there. During the race, we thought we might have overshot ourselves at one point.
But I had these tickets to do a marathon, and because I'd volunteered at this race the year before, and we were dating at the time, and we were both kind of like in half marathon shape. So I called Jacob and I was like, hey, like I have these free tickets. Do you want to just like do the half marathon just for fun? And then Jacob's like, well, what if we actually do the marathon? And I was like,
I knew that I had run a half, like not like an official half, but just for fun one day. And so I'm like, I know I can do a half. I was like, why not? Let's try for the big stuff.
Let's go for a challenge.
Yeah.
And it was fun to like do it together. And
we signed up for 8 weeks before the marathon.
So we made like an 8-week marathon training program.
Yeah.
And we went to the marathon. We didn't do it very fast. I actually ended up taking a wrong turn, and I ran 28 miles instead.
Extra points.
So there's like the beginning of like ultra running, I guess.
More than just the marathon.
So, and that was fun. Then we got married, and Jacob had this coworker who was telling us about how she signed up for a marathon, but she ended up running 50 miles because she just felt good and she just kept running.
Like she go through the finish line. She's like, I'm gonna keep.
There was a 50 attached with it. So she like got to the marathon point, and then she's like, I just kept deciding to keep running. I decided I wanted to do the 50, and so then it put that idea in our head.
And we just thought that was cool. And then we also had just read David Goggins.
He's so intense.
And you read that book, you feel like you have to do something. I can't just sit around. So
well, Jacob was like just totally in this like David Goggins mindset where he was like, no, we gotta do something amazing. and I was like, okay. And I don't know, so we were like, let's do 50 miles. And we were just like, yeah. And I remember like sitting on the bed one night, like we like had made this decision, and we were both like, we're gonna do it. So we signed up for the 50-mile run. There's so many things I changed about that training. It was so bad. We did everything wrong, I feel like. But
we finished, though.
We finished, yeah.
So what was this 50-mile run? Was this a race that you guys signed up for, or was this your 50 miles in preparation for the 100?
This was our the Bryce Canyon 50.
So this is a year ago.
Last
We
year.
did 50 miles,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So then this year, of course, we have to do 100 miles now. So
just kept going.
Yeah.
We did 50, so we had to try the 100.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what was your guys' like training like leading up to this 100? Did you have? I'm sure you had some sort of plan in place. And what was kind of your mindset as far as how you were going to tackle 100 miles? because definitely like you obviously can't go out and do a 100-mile training run like you do for any other I'd say shorter race where you can go out and like reassure yourself that you can run the distances. Is more like you have a certain amount of time you can run, you know, maybe like a 40 or 50-mile run, and then it's kind of this big unknown of the last 50, 60 miles, whatever it is.
Yeah, so our biggest run was we did do a self-supported 50-miler before the 100, and we could talk about that in a second, but we just tried to get as many like long runs in as we could. So I guess what it looked like was a whole bunch of like short, like hour, 2-hour runs throughout the week. And then on the weekend, it was always a 15 to 30-mile run. And we also did lots of back-to-backs. So like 20 miles on Friday, 15 miles on Saturday kind of things. So, but we didn't want to run a whole bunch of like 50s, or we had a lot of people ask us, so like, are you gonna do like some 70-mile runs or some like 80-mile runs before your 100? And things you just can't, it just doesn't work that way.
I'd rather kill myself once.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
It just doesn't work that way because your body breaks down after running so many miles, and we expect our bodies to break down on the actual 100-mile run, but like Jacob said, we can't just run like those kind of miles all the time. So we just tried to get in like longish runs on the weekend to prepare for it. So.
And there was a lot of change as we went through the program.
Yeah, you have to
like
be
at first
super
we were
flexible
like,
with it.
we're getting mileage in. We'd have a set mileage, and then we started realizing, I think it's more so about time on your feet and you're moving.
The
And so
miles
then
we're
we were like,
working,
okay, I'm setting 10 hours this week, 12 hours this week. But yeah, so then that also, because sometimes we did this run up on the trails in the mountains, and so we do a lot of training runs where we're just going straight up a mountain and straight down, and then we'd be bushwhacking sometimes. We think we'd have trails, we wouldn't have trails. But so our mileage wouldn't always be as high as we initially wanted, but we were on our feet, we were moving, and so, I think it worked.
Yeah, that's the key, is time on your feet. Just time on your feet. And something that helped a lot too was, even when we weren't running, we tried to just like be active throughout the day, not sit too long. And so sometimes like I'd do a big run in the morning, and then I'd come home and clean the house, and then I'd go grocery shopping, and I kind of counted that as time on my feet because I was up and moving on my feet all day, which I feel like contributed to our training. So
yeah.
So it started out as being training for the Ute 100, correct?
Yeah.
And then obviously with coronavirus, lots of races are canceled, including the Ute 100. And so you guys more or less made your own 100-mile race, made your own course. Can you talk a little bit about the preparation for that and like what your motivation was behind? I think a lot of people, just, it's canceled, I guess it's over with. And so you guys kind of like took the next step and like, we're doing this whether the race is happening or not.
Yeah.
Well, it got canceled, and we had that mindset, it's over with. But then, I know Melody's a lot more into running than me. I do enjoy running.
So she's the one
I don't think you can say that when runs better
I mean, I feel like, Melody's all about the body mechanics and the running situation. I was all like, my motivation, a lot of it was like the mental aspect of just proving to myself that I could do it. But as we started thinking about it, it got canceled. We're like, well, we don't know if we can do it now. And then I started thinking like next year, I was like, I don't know if with the things going on in my life, if next year is going to work.
If we're going to even have time to train for 100 miles.
Yeah. And then we had a lot of family and friends reach out and say, hey, if you want to just do it on your own, we'll help you guys out, And so then took us a couple weeks, and we decided, you know what, we can, and then we started looking at the maps around the trails that we run. We're like, we think we can put together something. So we just decided to go for it. We're already halfway through our training program anyways. And it's like, I don't want to restart this. It was a lot of work getting to this point,
Yeah.
And so we're like, let's just keep things rolling. Let's still get it knocked out this year. And so we went for it.
Yeah, so Jacob's the one he looked at the maps, and he's the one who found the course. And then we just spent, a lot of our long runs were spent on the course, just trying to find the connections and get a feel for it. So.
Yeah. I remember a couple of times you told me you guys got like lost on some of the weekends.
Yeah, we had some interesting long runs.
Lost
for
trails,
sure.
thought there was trails, there wasn't trails, yeah.
Lots of bushwhacking.
Yeah.
Runs taking way longer than expected. But that was part of the fun of training and mapping out our own course. It was just so like adventurous, and I would totally map out a course like that again.
It added
was
a
fun.
lot of challenge, a little more spice to the training, I guess, because sometimes you're just running, like, oh, I've been on this trail, 10 times already.
Times.
But, the fact that I'm trying to put things together, make an actual course, evaluate elevation, all this, how well the trail is, and can our bodies sustain that. And so it added I think it was a fun dimension of actually putting together your own course.
It was super fun.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that course? Like, what you guys, why did you decide to do the course you did, and like how you approached elevation? So like, in my mind, I'd be like, okay, like, what is the flattest trail I can do? Because the distance already is very, very tough. But you guys had quite a bit of climbing, from what I know anyway, here at this course. So
we got a lot of flack for the course we picked.
Our 50-mile race was on trail. And that was like 8,000-ish feet of elevation or something. And we just like trail running. We started doing trail running when we did our 50. We did a little bit, but we didn't live on trail. And we just discovered that trail was where it's at, You don't have to deal with all those cars driving by all the time, nearly hitting you.
Wildlife, we've seen the coolest things up there.
Yeah, we came, on our 100, we came within 10 yards of a mountain goat. So just cool things like that. So we just, in picking it out, we had already been in that area, and we decided we wanted to try to keep it as much on trail as we could. And we like some climbing, we like descending, we like the change up with running flat, climbing, descending, just kind of breaks the monotony.
Especially when you're running for that long. It's just like, honestly, I feel like what we did mentally was easier than just running a flat, straight 100 miles. I feel like that would drive me crazy.
Yeah.
So we kind of, we wanted that change up. Plus, we were trying to make it as much like the Ute 100 as we could. And I think the Ute 100 would have been, 15 to 20,000.
Yeah, it was somewhere in that range.
So that's what we were kind of aiming for. So what the course was like was we climbed to the top of Ben Lomond, and how many miles was that from when we started climbing?
Well, we started at different points,
It was about 15-ish miles of climbing with 6,000 feet of climbing. That was the biggest, hardest thing.
Yeah, that was the big climb.
And then we had about 15 miles of just descending. And then we had the rest of it was just kind of ups and downs, switchbacks. Kind of easy. There are a few just long flat stretches that I hated those parts. I definitely prefer to climb and descend, but
we did suffer for the course we picked.
We did get a little bit too ambitious with our course.
So what were the logistics like with that? Do you have a set number of how much elevation gain there was in your guys' original course?
In the original course, it was about
It was going to be
16-ish.
16 to 17, yeah.
That is substantial.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, I think we would have been able to do it if it wasn't for the heat. Our issue was second time around, the heat just got us and we were both sick.
Well, it got us the first time around, too.
Yeah,
we just powered through it.
We powered through it, but we were so that was on Friday. We'd powered through, and then Saturday it was supposed to be even hotter. And we were like, how the heck are we supposed to climb that mountain again in 100-degree weather? We were both sick to our stomachs. So we did end up changing the course, and we just went to this flat, kind of mellow. It was the Ogden River Parkway is where we ended up going.
So it was really funny. Before you guys had even come down to that section.
Yeah, you saw us at our breaking point.
You were at a low point when Mark came and saw us.
But it's so funny because your dad was cracking me up. He's like, man, like I keep thinking, if we look at the, we like they don't have to do this one. We can, maybe we can just convince them at this point to like drop it to something a little more mellow, and man, we should just take them out to the salt flats, and then you could run forever. Which, from what you said, it might have made you go insane if you had done that. But what was that? Like you said, it really was kind of a low point. You guys were exhausted, kind of some gut issues. What was that like mentally? I guess mentally and physically, to make that change and kind of make that transition mid marathon or mid ultra marathon, I should say. Yes.
Well, like you said, we were really low at that point.
This is like at mile 66.
Yeah. Jacob was feeling a little bit more optimistic than me at this point. I think it's because Jacob has had these stomach issues before and he's powered through. This is the first time I've ever dealt with gut issues like this, and it was horrible. I couldn't eat anything, I could barely drink. So my plan was, when we came into this aid station, I kind of had in my head that like, I'm done and people are gonna, come console me and it's okay, like you did the best you could. But instead we come to this aid station, everyone's like, you're gonna finish this is what we're gonna do, like let's go over here, let's change the course. And I wanted to finish this so bad. For me, I was like, oh, okay, let's do it. That sounds great.
I was actually surprised how easily because when coming down, Melody was like, I think I'm done, like as we were coming into this aid station. And then we started talking about just changing to a simpler course where we're just running on this running path in town. And Melody's like, let's do it. I'm like, all right, so,
I wanted to finish it, and you're down for it. So it wasn't hard to choose to do that, honestly. We just wanted to get 100 miles. So
we ended up doing like 6 more miles on the original course, and then we veered off into town and ran the remainder on a paved running trail.
We had 20 miles just going back and forth on a 4-mile paved trail, which just sounds miserable. And in the beginning, I was like, why did we decide to do this? I can't believe we're doing this. Yeah. But we had a whole bunch of friends. We had some people who listened to the podcast who they came and ran with us. And we had some like friends of a friend who heard about us who like came to run with us. Awesome. And it was fun because we got this it was like this little running posse. We just had all these runners around us who just ran with us the rest of the way.
That's really cool.
And it was so helpful to have people there they were just cheering us on and talking to us and keeping us awake.
And the best part is Melody with trekking poles on a flat paved Here we are at mile 85. Melody's got these trekking, and all these people just looking at what is she doing?
I was having hip issues and it helped to have poles. So
don't worry about it, people.
The funniest, there's this this old man, a homeless guy on the side of the trail, and like teeth falling out, and so I walked past with the trekking poles and he just is like, laughing so hard. And he's like making fun of my trekking poles.
Yeah, he like does the hand
signal. So we were aware that we looked absolutely ridiculous.
But once at that point,
you don't care what you look like.
I'm sure that was the last thing on your guys' mind, is you're having stomach issues, and I'm sure there's a lot of other things going on as well.
Yeah.
How did that work? Obviously you guys are a team doing this through different highs and lows, and how did you guys support each other that way?
Well, it's funny. I had one person tell me after we did it, he's like, if you can run 100 miles with your wife, you're sure not getting divorced. And we had highs and lows with each other. I mean, we joke that on every long run we have a fight.
I feel like that's better though. Yeah. I feel like through this training we really did learn how to run together. And I don't know, I feel like towards the end we weren't really fighting anymore.
No. I mean, it's just your nerves, everything is so drained.
Well, you're in so much pain. Yeah. And it's like, this is the person you spend the most time with, and they're the easiest to be mean to. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
I mean, like, we just keep, I guess we both just get used to when we get to lows and we're just like, come on, we just got to keep moving. We just have learned
how to deal with each other. So like when Jacob's low, I've kind of figured out what to do. When I'm low, he's kind of figured out what to do. We also have learned how to communicate with each other better. So like, for example, I'm thinking of one run in particular where I was really grumpy and Jacob was doing great and he's like singing and having the time of his life, but I did not want to hear him sing because I was grumpy and I just need to power out this run.
Yeah.
So I just had to tell Jacob, I was like, please just run really far ahead of me so I can't hear you or sing. So I can get through this run. And we just have learned how to, tell each other what we need. And sometimes he'll tell me that, like, I just want to run alone right now. Like, I don't want to talk right now. And so I'll just put my headphones in. Or sometimes we just, a lot of times we do just enjoy talking to each other and run by each other. But yeah, and that was one thing that made the run a little bit harder is if Jacob was, if he needed to spend more time on aid station, but I was feeling good, we ended up staying at the aid station so Jacob could get what he needed and vice versa. And we're only as strong as the weakest link, right? So we always had to slow down for the person who was struggling. So that did make it.
That was tough.
It did make the race take longer.
Yeah. Running it step for step with someone else, it adds a different dimension. And obviously, neither of you are going to be going PR or going as fast as you probably could have gone because, you're stronger and weaker at different points. And like Melody said, you can only go as fast as the weakest link.
Yeah, that's really cool. So it sounds like you really learned some neat things about each other, about yourself, about running. I guess what are some of the biggest, the biggest lessons that you feel like you learned through training? And that can be in any aspect, right? Whether it's the training itself, like being able to actually physically accomplish that, or just kind of like growth experiences with each other and with yourself.
Man, I don't know where to start. I feel like
so many.
This is what comes to mind for me. I mean, setting big goals is awesome, right? But so oftentimes we set big goals and then we see where we're at and the goal just kind of, And so I remember starting up, the day before starting the 100-mile race, I was talking to a coworker and she's like, how long is it from Ogden to Provo? And I looked it up and I was like, it was 80 miles. And she's like, you're running past, so that's like you running the Nephi. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh shoot. That is a long ways,
Yeah.
But I guess, as we started off on it, I just had to tell myself, just get to the next aid station. Because when I started thinking about the end goal, it was just overwhelming. And so I'm like, okay, just get to the next aid station, do what I need to do there so then I can get to the next one and just set that goal, one aid station at a time. And it was similar in the training, when we first started looking out and I'm like, I'm going to be running for 12 to 15 hours a week at one point, or doing the back-to-back 20-mile runs, which was just overwhelming. But it's no, just do what you got to do this week so you can do what you got to do next week. And so I guess for me, with the training and what I learned from it was basically taking it, short goals at a time. Set that long-term goal, figure out how you're going to get there, but then just do what you have to do this week to get to next week and get to this aid station so I can get to the next one. And then eventually you're going to get to that end site.
Yeah.
That was the only way we could get through the race, especially right before that aid station where I thought I was done. Jacob just kept saying, just get to the next aid station, just get to the next aid station. And that's what we'd always say. Instead of, get to the finish line, we're always the goal is just the next aid station. Then we'll do what we need to do there. We'll eat, we'll rest, and then we'll get to the next aid station. So that definitely was a big takeaway. A big takeaway was also you can do anything you set your mind to, right? It's just funny how we actually went out with my sister and her new boyfriend last night, and and he was like, 100 miles, that's crazy. And it's funny how when we first signed up for this, we were like, wow, this is crazy. But now that we've done it, it's it doesn't seem that crazy.
No, it does.
No, it's so crazy. I assure you.
I know, yes. I know. I agree with Melody.
Yeah.
I thought we were being crazy too, but it really, it's just what we decide to put our time into.
Right. So it just kind of goes to show that, set a big goal and then And then you get there and then you realize you can do even more than that. Because like I said, I feel like it wasn't that crazy. Like, let's do 200 miles. I'm
not saying that.
I'm not gonna do more than 100.
That was going to be my next question, was have you recovered to the point where you're like, let's do this again? Like, every like marathon or ultra marathoner, when they're in the race, like, oh, I'm never doing this again. This was so bad. But then it seems like within like an hour of them finishing, it's like, oh yeah, let's do that again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know it's gonna happen again. I'm gonna run 100 miles again at some point.
I mean, I could see myself doing it again. I don't know if it's gonna happen. I don't know. Coming into it, I was already coming in. I was like, this is a one and done for me. The training, it's just the training is so rigorous, and that honestly, the training to me felt harder than the actual run. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's with almost any run. It's all about the training, right? And so just the time and that it took for the training, like, whew.
Yeah, we had to sacrifice a lot. We had to say no to a lot of like weekend trips and friends when they hang out, and people were used to us saying, nope, gotta run.
Yeah, we're going on a run
tomorrow. Yeah. And that just turned into our weekends, so we can never plan anything. But I don't know, it was
sounds
fun,
a little bit miserable, but it was fun.
It was fun. It was fun going on a big adventure every single weekend.
Yeah. I want to switch gears just a little bit. One of my favorite questions to ask ultramarathoners is what their nutrition plan is like during the race. Because for those of you that don't know, you think of like a good athlete, running 100 miles, you would typically think like, oh, they're probably eating all these like super healthy foods and all these things. But ultramarathoners, they kind of just eat whatever they feel like they can actually get down. And so everyone has kind of like unique foods and different things that they eat throughout their runs.
Yeah, we learned so much about nutrition. Well, I feel like leading up to the race, like we really did eat healthy because we were like, okay, 100 miles is a big deal. Like we really are going to zone in on our nutrition. That was the big mistake we made on our 50 is we did just eat whatever we wanted to eat. And I feel like that hurt us. So we have kind of switched to a kind of plant-based diet. I say kind of because we're not super strict with it. Like Jacob loves his meat.
She switched to the plant.
But I think it helped us.
Whatever you say.
But I've taken a lot more time to like plan our meals and go grocery shopping, and I've been cooking a lot more. We've gotten rid of a lot of sugar, a lot of processed foods. We're eating a lot more fruits and veggies. We actually both lost a ton of weight training for this, and I feel a lot better, and I feel like we've developed a lot of good healthy habits, so that's been really helpful. What about
on the race?
But on the race, we weren't really sure what we would crave. I mean, we had, through trial and error and just like practicing nutrition on our long runs, we kind of figured out some things that worked for us. Like for me, I really love baked potatoes and bananas. That's what got me through most of our long runs. So we have lots of baked potatoes and bananas, and then we just bought a whole bunch of like junk food, right? Because again, we weren't sure what we were going to crave. So we had, cookies and we had Swedish fish and gummy bears and just granola bars, just whatever we could think of. And the issue is we actually ended up eating way too much sugar while we were running, and I think that's a big issue. We were having gut problems. So in the middle of the race, we were like, veggies, salad, fruits, like that's all we wanted. We were like, we don't want any sugar, we don't want any processed foods. And as soon as we started eating like veggies and salads and like real foods, that's when I started to feel better. So
and sauerkraut, right?
And sauerkraut. That's all I wanted was sauerkraut and pickle juice.
Pickle juice is a weird one, but I see that all the time in different races. You'd never crave that if you weren't in that situation.
Right.
Most would say pickle juice is disgusting, but apparently Mark loves it.
I do love myself some pickle juice. I'm a fan. I admit it.
Yeah, I'm never like, I'm gonna go home and drink some pickle juice. But on that run, that's all I wanted.
Yeah. I actually, like, my gut started going crazy at mile 15. I started feeling it come on. And I think it was actually from not eating enough. And because I always noticed once I was able to stomach some food down, my gut calmed down some. It's just, it was so hard to eat in the heat while you're running, what if your gut's upset. Anyways, and so I think that's one thing that helped us at the end, because we were running this 4-mile stretch just back and forth. So then we were able to sit down every 4 miles and actually eat something, because before that our aid stations were like 8 to 12 miles apart. And so anyways, but I did discover that chicken noodle soup was my thing. Like totally 100%. I'm sold on chicken noodle soup as an ultra runner. Because that broth, you get vegetables, you get some meat in there. Like, so the noodles, the carbs, like I'd sit down and I'd just pound a cup of chicken noodle soup, every 4 miles. Give me some, and then that's when everything calmed down. When I started getting chicken noodle soup in me. I also liked peppermint tea.
Yeah, who knew?
Like, I don't. Melody drinks tea all the time at home, and she's like, "You want me to make you some?" No. But then out there on that run, peppermint tea.
Yeah, it's really funny what you crave.
Yeah.
Meat was also really helpful for you too.
Yeah.
He had a meat burrito at one point, and then he had a hamburger at one point. And both times he was like Superman.
Yeah, I was ready. It was good, but the chicken noodle soup, I think that was key for me in hitting the spot.
Yeah. I actually learned that I do better if I eat less. I was eating too much. Once I figured out to eat a little bit less and to just focus on like replenishing my electrolytes. So when I got to an aid station, I would, pickle juice, vitamin water, lots of water, just like liquids and replenishing those electrolytes. That's really all I needed. And then maybe a little bite of a granola bar or something. And that's when my stomach started to settle down. That's when I felt really good. So I don't know, it's not something that you can teach people or train people. It really is just trial and error. You just have to get out there and run and play with foods and figure out what works for you. And what's frustrating is it depends on the day and the weather and the time. And like some days, like maybe chicken noodle soup worked really, really well for you then, but maybe another day it's not going to work. Like it's just as hard.
Yeah.
So
I think that's really cool though, because it's kind of like we've talked about in the other broadcasts that we do, right? About how cookie cutter plans rarely work, right? Because it is so individualized, right? We have 2 individuals running the same marathon that like have different nutritional needs and just different needs across the board. And so I love what you said, right? Like it's not this kind of set in stone thing. It can change today or change day to day. And just like, it sounds like being adaptable really helped in this marathon to be really prepared.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of looking back at some of those, that fluid, being able to change things as you're going, if there's your nutrition or your training program or the course. What are some things like looking back that now that you have 20/20 vision, looking back at everything that you did, that you guys would want to change when you do that next?
20/20 vision. I'm terrible. Proceed.
Well, I mean, just speaking of nutrition, I would do more long runs where I play around with nutrition more is what I would have changed. Because when we were thinking about that this was too much for us, about maybe we can't make this, it was due to nutrition. It's because we couldn't stomach any food. And so like I would go back and when my preparing next time, I'm going to make sure that chicken noodle soup really is what I like and try that on multiple long runs, or, and try out different things, burritos or whatever. But, I would looking back, play a lot more around with nutrition. And then also we did do, some cross training, with just doing with weights and squats and things like that. Melody had this program that she had us doing, and like that was great and all, but I would have focused a little bit more on cross training as well, because I definitely started to feel it at the end of training that I was running too much and I was neglecting the other parts of my body to where it was creating problems, with the wear and tear.
Yeah, I'd agree with both those things. I would have paid more attention to nutrition because ultimately that is what slowed us down. Because honestly, like at mile 66, our bodies were fine. Like, I mean,
like if you go strictly off our muscles, you know, and how
they were okay.
Yeah, we're moving. Yeah,
it was just our gut. So nutrition was the big thing, and then I feel like we did decent at our like.
You probably did better than me.
At our like strengthening and stability exercises. I'm actually proud proud that we did so good with those. But as a runner, you could always be better with those exercises. So, yeah, I mean, besides that, I actually am really proud of our training program. I feel like, especially for our first 100, I feel like we did a pretty good job at preparing for it. So,
I think a lot of our viewers are probably either thinking like, dang, this is crazy, like they're in 100 miles, or they may be preparing for a long race themselves. What advice would you guys give to somebody that is just getting into ultramarathoning, or maybe could, up their game a little bit? Like you said, you're always improving. There's always something you can do better.
For sure. Well, what I would say is, and I say this on the podcast all the time, listen to your body. Because especially as an ultra runner, like a set plan does not work. When you're putting this many miles on your body, when you're spending this much time on your feet, you have to do what's right for your body. And that means ignoring what other people are doing, what other people are saying. And there are a lot of times where I would stay home and watch a movie and Jacob would go do the long run, or vice versa, because I just wasn't feeling it and he was. And I've been listening to our podcast again and kind of like analyzing our training, and it's just funny how like some weeks Jacob's like, oh man, it was such a good week, I got all these miles in, I did this and this, and I was like, oh, it was a bad week for me, like I only got this many miles in and I was tired. And but you just gotta listen to that, right? And what we did to progress our miles is we just, we got to a point where we started to feel our body kind of breaking down, and then we would stay at that point till our body was stronger, and then we would go a little bit more, and then we would stay there till our body got stronger, then we'd go a little bit more. And you just got to listen to yourself and remember quality over quantity. We were a little bit nervous because our average mileage was only like 45 miles a week, which is not a lot. You talk to a lot of ultra marathoners who are running like 100 miles a week, 50 to 100 miles a week, and we were only at 45. But
people who don't do ultras run more than us.
Honestly, you have some people who run like, hundreds of miles a week, and they're like, we could never run 100 miles, and I'm like, you really could. Like if we can do it, you can do it. But the reason we never went over 45 is because our bodies just weren't ready for it. I mean, we haven't been running a long time. Our first marathon was 3 years ago. So just listen to your body and be okay with not getting a ton of miles or being as fast or as awesome as the other guy. Listen to your body. So that's my advice. What would your advice be?
I don't know if I'm the guy to look to advice for.
Well, you did it.
I
You're
did
more
it.
experienced than we are.
Accurate, yeah.
I mean, as I look back, the long runs, as I look at what I got out of the long runs, a lot of it, I think, was just a lot of mental toughness. Build that up. I read one thing as we were training. It says, get used to being uncomfortable if you're an ultra runner. And the thing was like, turn your temperature up in your house, or whatever. Just like it lists off a bunch of random. Yeah. I never did that. Well, but actually, we don't even have AC. And I was like, I thought about that. Like, I guess we're used to being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It was, as I look back at a lot of runs, we had a lot of long runs where things didn't go as planned, but yet we were able to push through the uncomfortable part of it and finish it off. And I think that helped us out there at the end quite a bit. We knew we were going to be uncomfortable. We were ready for it. You know, we had all this experience drawn upon from these long runs up in the mountains. Like we did one run where almost the whole thing was above 9,000 feet. We did 25 miles at it, and that was...
Yeah, that was hard for us.
I just think about that run again, and like it's almost as bad as the 100. But you know, and we ran out of water on that and things like that. But yeah, but we were able to, you know, things worked out where we were able to get through, and just experiences like that help out a lot. Just making yourself uncomfortable, finding that way to stay uncomfortable for hours, and pushing through helped. Pushing through for the hours of being uncomfortable on the run.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Do you have anything else you want to ask them before we sign out?
No, I think that's good. I really love the points that you guys hit, right, about being really adaptable, kind of like you always say, right, listen to your body. It just, like, thank you so much for being willing to take this time to kind of share that with our viewers and talk about that experience, because I think it's really valuable, and I think there's a lot more lessons that we can learn from that than just like the physical training itself. Like I know Preston and I are both very, very impressed.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, really cool. So
yeah, being one of those people that runs 100 miles every week.
I'm thinking Preston.
I'm like, you can do it.
To me, I'm still like, there's no way I could run 100 miles in one go. Like, 130 miles in a week, totally fine. 100 miles, one run, count me out. So definitely want to extend my congratulations, and thank you guys as well for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Well, we're happy to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's a big reason we did what we did was so we could share experiences. So
Yeah, because we just feel, I know for me at least, I feel like just an average Joe, you know, like I just like to be fit. And so a lot of the reason why we decided to do this, we're like, you know, we created a podcast called Trail to 100 where we documented our experience through it, was to show that, hey, here's a couple of average Joes, never done 100 miles before, and if we can do it, I mean,
you can do it.
you can do
It's
it.
kind of
Like,
nice that you can do it
and that's
set
how
your
we
mind
feel.
to,
That's
so.
how we feel looking back. We're like, you know what? That wasn't as crazy as we initially thought. Like, you know, it's just about keeping moving, pushing through, and get to the end sight.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, I believe anyone can run 100 miles. Anybody.
yeah.
If you decide you want to do it, you can do it. So.
Sweet.
Well, I think that's a great note to end on. There you have it.
Yeah.
You can run 100 miles as well. Anyone can do it. So Mark and I,
We're
doing
You
it.
guys are next.
Have that in embryo. Can we have it over like 13 days or something like that? Oh man. Well, sweet. Well, definitely check out their podcast. So Trail to 100. Check that out. Check out our other podcast, Body Smart Book Club, and also check out Wasatch Run Club.
Yeah, that's a group that I've started here, just a group of runners that like to meet up and go for runs together, and also provide each other with resources to learn more about running and just to help each other improve.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cool.
Sweet. That was awesome, guys.
Yeah,
Thank
that was
you.
really